My beloved child, before you continue listening, I need you to understand something very important. This message is not an accident. You did not arrive here by coincidence. You were guided here, you were led here, and deep inside your spirit, there is a reason you stopped scrolling. There is a reason your attention paused at this exact moment. Because there is something you have been carrying for a very long time. A question, a burden, a disappointment, a wound that nobody fully understands. And today, I want to speak directly to that hidden place inside you. Listen carefully. Do not rush through these words. Do not allow distractions to pull you away, because what I am about to reveal may completely change the way you view every delay, every closed door, every unanswered prayer, and every season of waiting that has frustrated you. My child, I know how tired you have become. I know there were nights when you stared at the ceiling asking me questions you never spoke aloud to anyone else. Questions like, God, why is this taking so long? Why does everyone else seem to be moving forward while I remain stuck? Why did that opportunity disappear? Why did that relationship end? Why did that door close when I prayed so hard for it to open? I heard every question. I heard every tear. I heard every frustrated prayer, even the ones you whispered through clenched teeth, even the ones you spoke through disappointment, even the ones you were afraid to admit. I heard them all. And today, I need you to hear me. What looked like delay was not abandonment. What looked like silence was not rejection. What looked like a closed door was not punishment. You have interpreted many events through the lens of pain, but I saw those same events through the lens of your future. There is a difference. You judged moments. I saw decades. You saw temporary disappointment. I saw permanent consequences. You saw what you wanted. I saw what would happen after you received it. And because I love you, I intervened. My child, there are blessings that seem beautiful from a distance but become dangerous when received too early. There are opportunities that look like miracles but become burdens when carried by unprepared hands. There are answers to prayer that can become sources of destruction when they arrive before the heart is ready. You do not yet realize how many times I protected you from things you were begging me to give you. Think about that. You cried because certain things never happened. You mourned because certain doors never opened. You suffered because certain dreams appeared to die. But what if I told you that some of those disappointments were actually acts of divine protection? What if the thing you called rejection was actually rescue? What if the thing you called delay was actually preservation? What if the blessing did not disappear? What if it was simply being held back until the right moment? Listen closely now, because this next part matters deeply. There are moments in your life that make no sense while you are living through them. Moments when confusion becomes your companion. Moments when nothing seems to move. Moments when heaven appears silent. Moments when you wonder if I have forgotten your name. But I have never forgotten you, not for 1 second. Not for one moment, not through one season. I know the exact day you were born. I know the number of tears you have cried. I know every battle you have fought in silence. I know every disappointment you never told anyone about. And because I know your future, I sometimes protect you in ways that feel painful. This is what many people fail to understand. Protection rarely feels like protection while it is happening. When I close a door, it feels like rejection. When I slow a process, it feels like delay. When I remove someone from your life, it feels like loss. When I interrupt your plans, it feels like frustration. But often, years later, you look back and finally understand. You finally see what I saw. You finally recognize what I prevented. You finally realize that if certain events had happened exactly when you wanted them to happen, they would have produced consequences you never anticipated. My child, there are things I saved you from that you still know nothing about. There were conversations that happened behind closed doors. There were motives hidden beneath smiles. There were traps disguised as opportunities. There were dangers disguised as blessings. And while you were asking why, I was protecting what mattered most. your future, your purpose, your calling, your destiny. That is why I need you to stop measuring my faithfulness by your timeline. My timing has never been designed to frustrate you. My timing has always been designed to protect you. The truth is that some prayers require preparation before manifestation. Some blessings require maturity before arrival. Some opportunities require transformation before release. And that transformation has been happening inside you, even when you could not see it. Do not dismiss the waiting season. Do not underestimate the quiet years. Do not overlook the hidden work. Because while you thought nothing was happening, I was building foundations beneath your future. While you thought you were standing still, I was strengthening parts of you that could not be strengthened any other way. While you were waiting, I was preparing. While you were crying, I was protecting. While you were questioning, I was positioning. And one day, very soon, you will understand why certain answers took longer than expected. You will understand why certain doors remained closed. You will understand why some people had to leave. You will understand why some plans fell apart. You will understand why some opportunities disappeared. And when that understanding comes, your disappointment will turn into gratitude. Your confusion will turn into clarity. Your frustration will turn into worship. Because you will finally see that I was not working against you. I was working for you the entire time. Remember my promise. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. Habakkuk 2:3. Do you see it, my child? The promise was never canceled. The blessing was never forgotten. The answer was never denied. It was simply being protected. And there is something else you do not yet know. Something far more important. The reason I delayed certain blessings was not because they were unimportant. It was because they were too important. The future I prepared for you carried a weight that the old version of you could not carry. If I had released it too soon, it might have broken you. If I had opened the door too early, it might have destroyed what I was trying to build. If I had given you everything you wanted immediately, you may have lost everything later. And in the next part, I will reveal the truth that most people never discover. I will show you why the blessing itself was never the problem. The real issue was who you were becoming before you received it. Because, my child, some blessings become dangerous when they arrive before the heart is ready to carry them. And what I am about to reveal next may completely change the way you view every delay in your life. My beloved child, stay with me now. Do not allow your attention to drift, because what I am about to reveal may challenge everything you have believed about your waiting season. For years, you thought the problem was the blessing. You thought the problem was the opportunity. You thought the problem was the closed door. But the blessing was never the problem. The opportunity was never the problem. The door was never the problem. The real issue was something much deeper, something hidden, something that only I could see. Listen carefully. The version of you that existed back then could not carry what you were asking for. I know that truth may be difficult to hear, but I speak it because I love you. My child, many people pray for elevation while remaining unprepared for responsibility. They pray for increase while lacking wisdom. They pray for influence while still being controlled by insecurity. They pray for abundance while still struggling with discipline. And then they wonder why heaven seems silent. But silence is not always denial. Sometimes silence is preparation. Sometimes silence is protection. Sometimes silence is love. Think about a child asking for the keys to a powerful vehicle. The child may sincerely want it. The child may cry for it. The child may even believe they are ready. But a loving father sees dangers the child cannot see. A loving father understands consequences the child cannot understand. And because of that love, the answer becomes not yet. Not because the father wants to punish the child. Not because the father wants to withhold joy. But because the father understands what would happen if the gift arrived too early. My child, that is exactly what happened in many areas of your life. You were praying for things that were real, things that were good, things that were part of your future. But you were asking for them before your character could safely sustain them. You wanted the blessing. I was developing the vessel. You wanted the harvest. I was strengthening the roots. You wanted the crown. I was building the shoulders that would carry it. And if I had given you what you wanted during that season, the very thing you desired might have become the very thing that destroyed you. This is what most people never understand. Success is not always a blessing. Success without maturity can become a curse. Money without wisdom becomes waste. Influence without humility becomes pride. Power without character becomes destruction. Relationships without healing become bondage. Opportunities without preparation become overwhelming burdens. You were focused on receiving. I was focused on preparing, and preparation always feels slower than receiving. I know there were moments when you compared your life to others. You watched people move ahead. You watched people celebrate victories. You watched doors open for them. You watched opportunities appear. And quietly, inside your heart, a question formed. Why not me? You rarely spoke those words aloud, but I heard them, and today I want to answer them, because you were never in competition with those people. I was writing a different story for your life. I was building something different inside you. You only saw their promotion. You did not see their struggles. You only saw their success. You did not see their private battles. And most importantly, you did not see the unique purpose I had prepared for you. Your assignment required a different process. Your destiny required a different timeline. Your future required a different level of preparation. My child, there are things I wanted to place in your hands that could not be trusted to the old version of you, the version that still doubted its worth, the version that sought approval from people, the version that depended on external validation, the version that was easily wounded by criticism, the version that made decisions based on emotions rather than wisdom, the version that was still learning how to trust me. That version could not carry what was coming, and because I loved you too much to let your future collapse, I slowed the process. Not to hurt you, to protect you. Remember this truth. A delayed blessing is often evidence of divine care. A rushed blessing can become a lifelong regret. There are people today who received exactly what they wanted too early. They gained wealth before developing wisdom. They gained influence before developing humility. They gained relationships before finding healing. And now they carry burdens that could have been avoided. My child, I refuse to let that become your story. That is why certain delays were necessary. That is why certain prayers seemed unanswered. That is why certain opportunities disappeared. You were looking at the gift. I was looking at the person receiving the gift. And I saw areas that still needed strengthening, areas that still needed healing, areas that still needed transformation. This was never about punishment, it was always about preparation. Remember what my word says, the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. Galatians 4:1-2. Do you understand what that means, my child? The inheritance already belonged to the heir. The promise already existed. The future was already prepared. The issue was never ownership. The issue was timing. The father understood something, the child did not. The blessing required maturity. The inheritance required readiness. The responsibility required growth, and so does yours. What I prepared for you has always belonged to you. The promise was never removed. The future was never canceled. The blessing was never reassigned. It was simply waiting for the appointed time. And during that waiting, something remarkable was happening. I was changing you quietly, patiently, carefully, while you thought you were waiting for your blessing. Your blessing was waiting for you to become stronger, waiting for you to become wiser, waiting for you to become more stable, waiting for you to become the person capable of carrying what was coming. Do not overlook this, because the greatest miracle was not happening around you. It was happening within you. Your thinking was changing. Your perspective was changing, your priorities were changing, your character was changing. And every lesson you learned was making room for a greater level of responsibility. Now listen carefully, because this next revelation is important. There was another reason for the delay, a reason even deeper than preparation, a reason that may completely change how you see your past. The truth is that some doors were not delayed because you were unprepared. Some doors were delayed because certain people still had access to your life. People who could not go where I was taking you. People who would have misused your blessing. People who would have benefited from your favor while secretly damaging your future. You could not see them, but I could. You could not discern their motives, but I could. You believed they were part of your destiny. I knew they were only part of your season, and before I released what was coming, I had to remove what no longer belonged. That process was painful. That process felt confusing. That process felt unfair, but it was necessary, because what I am preparing for you cannot be entrusted to everyone. And in the next part, I will reveal something shocking. I will show you why some of the doors that closed were never failures. They were shields. They were barriers placed by my hand. They were acts of protection disguised as disappointment. And when you finally see what was hidden behind those closed doors, you will understand why I refuse to let them open. Because, my child, some rejections were not meant to break your heart. They were meant to save your future. My beloved child, listen carefully now. Because what I am about to reveal may completely transform the way you remember one of the most painful seasons of your life. There are still moments you think about, moments that left questions unanswered, moments that left wounds inside your heart, moments when a door closed so suddenly that it felt as if the ground disappeared beneath your feet. You remember those moments. You remember the disappointment, the confusion, the heartbreak, the frustration. You remember praying. You remember hoping. You remember believing and then watching everything fall apart. At the time, it felt devastating. At the time, it felt unfair. At the time, it felt like I was standing in the way of your happiness. But my child, there is something you did not know then, and perhaps you still do not know now. The door that closed was never your enemy. The closed door was your shield. I need you to hear that again. The closed door was your shield. Because not every opportunity is a blessing. Not every open path leads to peace. Not every person who enters your life is sent to stay. Not every desire should be fulfilled immediately. There are moments when what appears good on the surface is hiding consequences beneath it. Consequences you could not see. Consequences you were never meant to carry. Consequences that would have altered your future forever. My child, I see beyond the present moment. I see beyond appearances. I see beyond emotions. I see beyond what people show you. I see motives. I see intentions. I see outcomes. I see futures. And because I see what you cannot see, there are times when I close doors that you desperately want opened. Not because I am against you, but because I am protecting something far more valuable than your temporary comfort. I am protecting your future. There was a relationship you cried over. You thought that person was the answer. You imagined a future together. You built dreams around them. You invested your emotions into what you believed would last. When it ended, you felt shattered. You wondered why I allowed it. You questioned my silence. You questioned my timing. You questioned yourself. But what you did not see was the road ahead. You did not see how their choices would eventually conflict with your purpose. You did not see how their values would pull you away from your destiny. You did not see the pain waiting further down that road. You only saw the beginning. I saw the ending. And because I saw the ending, I interrupted the beginning. My child, there was a job you desperately wanted. You prayed for it, prepared for it, expected it. When the opportunity disappeared, you felt rejected. You wondered what you did wrong. You replayed conversations in your mind. You searched for explanations. But what if I told you that the position you wanted would have led you into exhaustion? What if I told you it would have distracted you from a greater assignment? What if I told you it would have placed you in environments that slowly drained your spirit? You saw income, I saw impact, you saw status, I saw sacrifice, you saw opportunity, I saw consequences. And so I closed the door, not because you were unworthy, because you were too valuable. Listen closely, this next part matters deeply. Many of the things you mourned were not removed from your life because they were bad. They were removed because they were not God's best. There is a difference. The enemy wants you to believe every closed door is proof of failure. But often a closed door is evidence of protection. A parent does not allow a child to play in traffic, not because the parent wants to limit the child, but because the parent understands danger. Likewise, I have protected you from roads you insisted on walking, roads that seemed harmless, roads that seemed promising, roads that seemed exciting. Yet beyond the curve of those roads were consequences you could never have anticipated. My child, there are disasters that never happened because I intervened. There are betrayals you never experienced because I blocked access. There are losses you never suffered because I redirected your steps. There are traps you never entered because I closed the gate before you arrived. You call it delay, I call it mercy. You call it disappointment, I call it protection. You call it rejection, I call it redirection. The truth is that some of your greatest blessings came disguised as unanswered prayers. I know that sounds difficult to accept, but one day you will look back and understand. One day the pieces will connect. One day the confusion will dissolve. One day you will see what I was saving you from, and gratitude will replace grief. My child, remember what my word says. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. Isaiah 55, 8-9. You see one chapter. I see the entire story. You see one moment. I see generations. You see immediate emotions. I see eternal consequences. That is why trust becomes so important, because there will always be moments when you do not understand what I am doing. There will always be moments when my protection feels painful. There will always be moments when my guidance seems confusing. But trust is choosing to believe that I can see what you cannot. Trust is believing that my wisdom extends beyond your understanding. Trust is believing that even when the answer is no, my love remains yes. My beloved child, there is something hidden inside many closed doors, something most people never discover. Behind some closed doors are lessons. Behind others are warnings. Behind others are delays. But behind certain closed doors are disasters that never happened. And those are often the doors people spend years trying to reopen. Imagine if I gave you everything you demanded immediately. Imagine if every desire was fulfilled the moment it entered your heart. Imagine if every prayer was answered exactly according to your timeline. How many mistakes would have followed? How many regrets would have accumulated? How many burdens would you now be carrying? You do not know, because I never allowed those futures to become reality. I protected you before you even knew protection was needed. That is how deeply I care for you. That is how carefully I watch over your life. You were never abandoned. You were never forgotten. You were never overlooked. Even in the moments that hurt the most, I was working behind the scenes. Even when you felt rejected, I was rearranging your future. Even when you felt lost, I was guiding your steps. And there is something else you need to know. Some of the doors that closed were not merely protecting you from situations. They were protecting you from people. People whose presence would have slowed your growth. People whose influence would have weakened your faith. People whose intentions were hidden behind friendly faces. You could not see their motives. You could not discern their impact. But I could. And because I love you, I refuse to allow certain connections to continue. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it felt unfair. Yes, it left questions. But protection often arrives wearing the disguise of loss. And now, my child, we come to an even deeper truth. Because the closed doors were only part of the story. The real reason I intervened reaches far beyond the present. There was something ahead of you, something years into your future, something so significant that I could not allow the wrong path to interfere with it. A future assignment, a future blessing, a future purpose, a future version of you. And in the next part, I will reveal the reason I saw danger where you saw opportunity. Because I was not looking at your current situation. I was looking 5 years ahead. I was protecting a future you could not yet imagine. And once you understand that truth, everything will begin to make sense. Because, my child, I was never managing your present. I was protecting your future. My beloved child, come closer and listen carefully, because this truth has the power to heal years of confusion. There is something you must understand about the way I work. You often judge events based on what you can see today. You evaluate situations through the lens of the present moment. You look at what is directly in front of you. You examine today's emotions, today's circumstances, today's opportunities, today's disappointments. And because you can only see what is immediately before you, certain events appear unfair. Certain delays appear unnecessary. Certain losses appear meaningless. But my child, I do not see life the way you do. I do not see one day. I do not see 1 year. I see the entire road. I see every turn, every decision, every consequence, every relationship, every opportunity, every hidden danger, every unseen blessing. I see what is coming long before it arrives. And because I see what you cannot see, there are times when I make decisions that confuse you. There are times when I redirect you without explanation. There are times when I close doors you desperately want opened. There are times when I slow processes you desperately want accelerated. Not because I enjoy watching you wait, not because I enjoy your frustration, but because I am looking far beyond your present situation. I am looking at the future I have prepared for you. My child, imagine standing in the middle of a forest. All you can see are trees surrounding you. You cannot see the mountain beyond them. You cannot see the river on the other side. You cannot see the storm approaching from the distance. Your perspective is limited, not because you are incapable, but because you are standing inside the forest. Now imagine standing high above that same forest. Suddenly, everything becomes clear. The paths, the dangers, the obstacles, the destination. This is the difference between your perspective and mine. You are standing inside the moment. I am looking over the entire journey. And because I love you, I guide you according to what I can see, not according to what you can see. There was a season when you believed a certain opportunity was perfect. Everything seemed to align. Everything appeared promising. You felt excited, hopeful, certain, yet somehow everything fell apart. And for a long time you wondered why. You searched for answers. You replayed events in your mind. You tried to understand what went wrong. But what if nothing went wrong? What if what felt like failure was actually intervention? What if what looked like loss was actually protection? Because while you were focused on immediate happiness, I was protecting future peace. While you were focused on today's opportunity, I was protecting tomorrow's purpose. While you were focused on a temporary outcome, I was guarding an eternal assignment. You see, my child, there are blessings that seem right in the moment, but become destructive over time. And there are disappointments that seem painful in the moment, but become priceless over time. The challenge is that you usually do not discover which is which until much later. That is why trust becomes necessary, because understanding often arrives after obedience, not before it. Listen carefully, this next part matters deeply. You have asked me many times why certain things happened, why certain people entered your life, why certain people left, why certain prayers seemed delayed, why certain dreams appeared to collapse. And although every situation is different, there is one truth connecting many of those experiences. You were looking at the next step. I was looking at the next decade. You were evaluating today's emotions. I was evaluating future consequences. You were focused on comfort. I was focused on calling. You were focused on what felt good. I was focused on what would help you become who you were created to be. My beloved, there are things in your future that require a stronger version of you, a wiser version of you, a more mature version of you, a more disciplined version of you, a more surrendered version of you. And because of that future assignment, I have been shaping your life accordingly. You thought certain seasons were random. They were preparation. You thought certain disappointments were setbacks. They were positioning. You thought certain losses were evidence that you were moving backward. But many of them were actually moving you forward, just not in the way you expected. My child, if you could see everything I see, you would stop questioning many of the delays. You would stop grieving some of the closed doors. You would stop trying to force outcomes that I intentionally prevented, because you would realize that my protection extends far beyond the present moment. You would realize that every redirection had purpose. Every delay had purpose. Every interruption had purpose. Every waiting season had purpose. Remember what my word says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Notice something important. I did not say, I know today's plan. I said, I know the plans, plural. The complete design, the entire blueprint, the whole story. You know one chapter, I know every chapter. You know one page, I know the ending. That is why I ask you to trust me even when understanding feels impossible. Because understanding is not the foundation of faith, trust is. There will always be moments when you cannot explain what I am doing. There will always be moments when my silence feels confusing. There will always be moments when my direction appears opposite to your expectations. But those moments do not mean I have abandoned you. Those moments often mean I am protecting something you cannot yet see. My beloved child, I need you to hear this with your whole heart. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not disqualified. The timeline of your life has never been out of my control. Even when everything appeared uncertain, I remained in control. Even when the road seemed unclear, I remained ahead of you. Even when you felt lost, I knew exactly where you were, because your future has always been visible to me. Every blessing, every breakthrough, every divine connection, every answered prayer, every victory, I have seen them all from the beginning, and I have been guiding you toward them one step at a time. That is why I need you to stop measuring your progress by visible results alone. Much of the most important work happens beneath the surface. Roots grow before fruit appears. Foundations are built before buildings rise. Character develops before influence expands. And the same is true for you. Something powerful has been developing beneath the surface of your life. Something that will soon become visible. Something that will make many of your past experiences finally make sense. But before that can happen, there is another truth you must understand. Because the waiting season was not merely about protection. It was also a training ground, a hidden classroom, a sacred preparation process. And in the next part, I will reveal why the season you thought was punishment was actually preparation. Because, my child, you were never sitting still. You were being trained for something greater than you imagined. My beloved child, there is something about your waiting season that you still do not fully understand. For a long time, you viewed that season as an interruption. You viewed it as a setback. You viewed it as wasted time. You looked at the months, the years, the unanswered prayers, the delayed opportunities, and you quietly asked yourself a painful question. Why am I standing still while everyone else is moving forward? I heard that question. I heard it every time it echoed through your heart. And today, I want to answer it. Because you were never standing still. Not for one moment. You were being trained. While you thought nothing was happening, some of the most important work of your life was taking place. Not around you, inside you. My child, the world celebrates visible progress. People celebrate promotions. Achievements, titles, recognition, open doors, public victories. But I often do my greatest work in hidden places. Places where no one applauds, places where no one notices, places where transformation happens quietly. You see fruit, I focus on roots. Because fruit can only survive when roots are strong enough to support it. And during your waiting season, I was strengthening your roots. I know you did not enjoy that season. I know there were days when you felt forgotten. Days when discouragement tried to settle over your spirit. Days when it seemed as if your prayers were bouncing off the ceiling. Days when it felt like nothing was changing. But my child, everything was changing. You simply could not see it yet. Think about the process of building a great structure. Before anyone sees the building rise above the ground, workers spend months creating the foundation. Digging, pouring, reinforcing, strengthening. Most of the important work happens below the surface. And because it happens below the surface, many people mistakenly assume nothing is happening. But the deeper the foundation, the taller the structure can rise. The same has been true in your life. I was digging deeper, strengthening deeper, preparing deeper, because what I am building through you requires a foundation that cannot be shaken. Listen carefully now. This next truth is important. Many people want the blessing. Few people want the preparation. Many people pray for greatness. Few people pray for the character required to sustain greatness. Many people ask for influence. Few people ask for the wisdom necessary to handle influence. Many people desire promotion. Few people welcome the training that promotion requires. But I love you too much to promote you beyond your preparation. I love you too much to place weight on shoulders that are not yet ready to carry it. That is why the waiting season became a classroom. A hidden training ground, a sacred place of transformation. While you were waiting, I was teaching you patience, because the future I prepared for you cannot be sustained by impatience. While you were waiting, I was teaching you endurance, because your calling requires perseverance. While you were waiting, I was teaching you humility, because pride destroys what humility can sustain. While you were waiting, I was teaching you trust, because there will be seasons ahead when trust will matter more than understanding. My child, every lesson mattered, every disappointment taught something, every setback revealed something, every challenge developed something. Nothing was wasted, not one tear, not one prayer, not one difficult season, not one lonely night. I used all of it, even the pain, especially the pain. Because pain often teaches lessons that comfort never could. There were things you learned during hardship that success could never have taught you. There were strengths you developed in weakness. There were revelations you received in loneliness. There were insights you gained through struggle, and those lessons became part of the person you are today. You are stronger than you were, wiser than you were, more discerning than you were, more resilient than you were. And much of that growth happened because of the very season you once wished would end. My beloved child, imagine an athlete preparing for a championship. The training is exhausting. The repetition feels endless. The discipline feels demanding. The progress often feels invisible. Yet every workout serves a purpose. Every challenge strengthens something. Every difficulty prepares the athlete for the moment they have been called to face. Now imagine if the athlete skipped the training. Imagine if they demanded the victory without preparation. The opportunity would arrive, but they would not be ready. The same principle applies to your life. The blessing itself was not enough. You needed preparation for the blessing. You needed strength for the assignment. You needed maturity for the opportunity. You needed wisdom for the responsibility, and that is exactly what I was developing. My beloved child, there is a truth you have struggled to accept, a truth that explains many of the painful separations in your life, a truth that may finally bring peace to questions you have carried for years. Listen carefully. Not everyone who entered your life was meant to stay. Not everyone who walked beside you was meant to walk into your future. Not everyone who supported you in one season was assigned to the next. And one of the hardest lessons you have had to learn is this: sometimes before I can release the blessing, I must remove the people who would misuse it. My child, I know how deeply some departures hurt. I know there were people you trusted, people you prayed for, people you sacrificed for, people you believed would always remain beside you. And when they left, it felt like something inside you broke. You replayed conversations, you searched for explanations. You questioned your worth, you questioned your value. You even questioned whether you had done something wrong. But hear me now, not every departure was your fault. Not every ending was a punishment. Not every separation was a loss. Some separations were divine protection, because there were people connected to your current season who were never designed for your next season. You could not see it then, but I could. You saw friendship, I saw dependency, you saw loyalty. I saw hidden motives, you saw potential. I saw future complications, you saw who they were today. I saw who they would become tomorrow. And because I loved you, I intervened. My beloved, there are people who enjoy being close to you while you are struggling. They enjoy being close while your confidence is low. They enjoy being close while your dreams seem distant. They enjoy being close while your influence remains small. But when growth begins, something changes. When favor begins to appear, something changes. When purpose begins to unfold, something changes. The same people who celebrated your survival often become uncomfortable with your elevation, not because you changed, but because your growth exposes their unwillingness to grow. Listen carefully now. This next part matters deeply. There are people who love the version of you that depends on them, but they do not know how to handle the version of you that depends on God. There are people who support your potential as long as it remains potential. But when potential becomes reality, their insecurity begins to speak. My child, this is why some relationships become strained during seasons of growth. This is why some people disappear when God starts opening new doors. This is why some friendships fade when purpose becomes clearer. It is not always because anyone is evil. Sometimes it is simply because the season has changed. And what worked in one chapter no longer belongs in the next. I know you fought to keep certain people. I know you prayed for reconciliation. I know you hoped things would return to the way they were. But some things cannot return because I am calling you forward. You cannot step into a new season while dragging an old season behind you. You cannot embrace your future while refusing to release your past. You cannot receive new assignments while clinging to expired relationships. My child, there are blessings that require separation before manifestation, not because separation feels good, but because certain environments can no longer sustain where I am taking you. Think about a rocket leaving Earth. The higher it rises, the more weight it must release. Certain pieces detach during the ascent, not because those pieces were bad, but because they cannot go where the rocket is going. The same has happened in your life. Some people were assigned to help you launch, but they were never assigned to help you land. Some people were assigned to encourage you during the beginning, but they were never assigned to walk with you through fulfillment. And when their season ended, I had to create distance, not to hurt you, to prepare you. My beloved child, there were conversations I heard that you never heard. There were attitudes I saw that you never saw. There were intentions hidden beneath smiles. There were jealousies hidden beneath compliments. There were resentments hidden beneath support. You were judging people by their words. I was judging them by their hearts. And because I saw what was developing beneath the surface, I knew what would happen if certain connections remained. I knew which voices would create confusion. I knew which influences would create delay. I knew which relationships would compete with your calling. And because I refused to allow your future to be compromised, I began removing what no longer belonged. Yes, it felt painful. Yes, it felt confusing. Yes, it felt unfair. But protection often feels like loss before it reveals itself as wisdom. Remember what my word says. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Notice that I did not say, bad company destroys your destiny overnight. It is often much more subtle than that. It influences your thinking, your confidence, your standards, your focus, your priorities, little by little, until one day you wake up wondering why your passion disappeared, why your faith weakened, why your vision became cloudy, why your purpose feels distant. My child, I was protecting you from that slow erosion. I was protecting your focus, protecting your confidence, protecting your assignment, protecting your future, because what I am preparing for you requires clarity, and clarity often arrives after separation. There are people you could not hear me clearly around. There are environments where your spirit could not grow freely. There are influences that made you second-guess what I was speaking to your heart. And before I could elevate you, I had to remove the noise, not because I wanted to isolate you, but because I wanted you to hear my voice more clearly than ever before. You thought people were leaving because you were losing something. In reality, I was creating space. Space for growth, space for healing, space for wisdom, space for the people I am preparing to bring into your future. Because hear me carefully, my child, every removal creates room for a replacement. Every ending creates room for a beginning. Every farewell creates room for a new arrival. And what I have prepared ahead of you cannot fit into a life crowded by expired connections. That is why I ask you to stop grieving every departure. Not every departure is a tragedy. Some are transitions, some are protection, some are preparation, and some are evidence that your life is moving into a new season. But there is another truth you have not yet seen, something even deeper, because some people left naturally, yet there were also unseen forces working behind the scenes, forces that understood something you did not. They were not afraid of your current condition, they were afraid of your future. And in the next part, I will reveal why the enemy wanted your blessing to arrive early. Because, my child, the enemy never feared who you were. He feared who you were becoming. My beloved child, listen closely now, because what I am about to reveal is something many people never understand. For years, you believed the greatest threat to your future was failure. You thought the greatest danger was rejection. You thought the greatest danger was lack. Lack of money, lack of opportunity, lack of support, lack of progress. But my child, sometimes failure is not the enemy's most effective weapon. Sometimes success is. Sometimes the greatest danger is not receiving nothing. Sometimes the greatest danger is receiving everything too soon. Let that settle into your spirit, because there are seasons when an early blessing can create more damage than a delayed blessing. And there is a reason the enemy understands this so well. The enemy is not impressed by your current struggle. He is not threatened by your temporary weakness. He is not afraid of your present circumstances. What troubles him is who you are becoming. What disturbs him is what I have placed inside you. What concerns him is the future assignment attached to your life, because he sees evidence of something you often overlook. He sees your potential. He sees your calling. He sees the influence you will carry. He sees the lives you will impact. He sees the healing you will bring. He sees the testimony being formed through your trials. And because he cannot stop what I have ordained, he tries something else. He attempts to corrupt it before it matures. My child, understand this. The enemy does not always attack by taking things away. Sometimes he attacks by offering things too early. He understands that premature success can be just as destructive as failure. He understands that blessings received before preparation often become burdens. He understands that opportunities received before maturity often create collapse. That is why timing matters so much. You see, if he cannot stop your destiny, he will try to rush it. If he cannot destroy your future, he will try to accelerate it before you are ready, because he knows something many people do not. A blessing arriving before character is developed can become a trap. A promotion arriving before humility is established can become pride. Influence arriving before wisdom is formed can become destruction. Power arriving before discipline is learned can become self-sabotage. And this is why some delays were necessary. Not because I was withholding your future, but because I was protecting it. My beloved, think about a fruit tree. If the fruit is picked too early, it appears complete from the outside, but inside it has not fully matured. It cannot provide what it was designed to provide. Likewise, there were things developing inside you that could not be rushed. There was wisdom forming, discernment forming, strength forming, character forming, trust forming, and all of it was necessary for what comes next. The enemy wanted the reward before the preparation. He wanted the harvest before the roots. He wanted the platform before the process. He wanted the spotlight before the foundation, because he understood something important. The quickest way to destroy a future is to elevate someone before they are ready. My child, there are people who achieved success and lost themselves. People who received wealth and lost their peace. People who gained influence and lost their integrity. People who received everything they wanted and discovered they were not prepared to sustain it. You have seen it happen, perhaps more times than you realize. A person rises quickly. Everything appears wonderful. Everything appears blessed. Then suddenly, everything begins to unravel. Why? Because outward success arrived before inward preparation. The weight exceeded the strength of the foundation, and collapse followed. My beloved child, I refuse to let that become your story. That is why I slowed certain processes. That is why I closed certain doors. That is why I allowed certain seasons of preparation. Not because I wanted to frustrate you, because I wanted to preserve you. Listen carefully now. This next revelation matters deeply. There were moments when you thought you were losing. Moments when you felt behind. Moments when you believed others were moving ahead while you remained stuck. But many of those moments were actually victories disguised as delays. Because every time you were protected from premature success, you were protected from unnecessary destruction. Every time a door remained closed, you were protected from carrying weight beyond your current capacity. Every time the process slowed down, space was created for deeper growth. You were never being denied. You were being strengthened. Remember what my word says, be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. 1 Peter 5:8. Notice something important. The enemy is looking for opportunities, openings, weak places, areas that have not yet matured, areas where impatience overrides wisdom, areas where desire overrides discernment. That is why spiritual maturity matters. Because maturity helps you recognize the difference between a blessing and a temptation. Not everything that arrives quickly is from me. Not every opportunity should be accepted. Not every open door should be entered. Not every shortcut leads to your purpose. Some shortcuts lead away from it. My child, there were opportunities you wanted that would have distracted you from your assignment. There were relationships you desired that would have weakened your focus. There were paths you considered that would have delayed your purpose for years. You could not see it, but I could. And because I could see it, I intervened. I redirected. I delayed. I protected. Not because I was absent, because I was deeply involved. My beloved, one day you will look back and realize that many of the things you begged me to accelerate would have become sources of regret. One day you will thank me for certain unanswered prayers. One day you will thank me for certain closed doors. One day you will thank me for certain delays. Because hindsight will reveal what faith could not yet fully understand. And when that day comes, you will see that every delay was connected to love. Every interruption was connected to wisdom. Every redirection was connected to purpose. But there is another truth you have not yet fully discovered. Something even more personal. Because some of the things you cried over would not merely have distracted you. They would have broken you. The very blessing you begged for might have become the source of your deepest pain. And in the next part, I will reveal why certain doors remained closed despite your tears. Because, my child, some of the things you desperately wanted would have shattered the version of you that existed back then. And one day, you will thank God that He said no. My beloved child, stay with me, because this may be one of the hardest truths you have ever heard. Yet it may also become one of the most healing. There are some prayers you still remember, some requests you placed before me with tears in your eyes, some dreams you carried so deeply that they became part of your identity. You imagined them constantly. You built your future around them. You believed they were the answer. And when they did not happen, something inside you broke. You felt disappointed, confused, rejected, perhaps even abandoned. You wondered why I remained silent. You wondered why I allowed your heart to become attached to something that never happened. You wondered why I did not simply give you what you asked for. My child, I understand those questions. I understand the pain behind them. I understand the tears behind them, because I was there for every one of them. I saw every tear fall. I heard every prayer. I felt every moment your heart sank. And today, I need you to hear something that may change everything. The thing you cried over was not necessarily what you needed. The thing you begged for was not necessarily what would bless you. The thing you lost was not necessarily what would have fulfilled you. Sometimes your heart desires what your future cannot survive. Let that settle deeply within you, because many of the things you mourned were not removed because they lacked value. They were removed because they carried hidden consequences, consequences you could not yet see, consequences you were never meant to carry. My beloved, imagine a child reaching for a beautiful object. It sparkles, it appears attractive, it seems harmless. The child cries when the object is taken away. The child feels disappointed. The child believes something wonderful has been stolen. But the parent knows something the child does not. The object is dangerous. The child sees beauty. The parent sees danger. The child sees loss. The parent sees protection. My child, there were moments when you were that child. You saw beauty. I saw consequences. You saw possibility. I saw future pain. You saw opportunity. I saw destruction. And because I loved you too much to watch you walk into that pain, I intervened. Even when it broke your heart, even when it confused you, even when it made no sense. Listen carefully now. There is something you still do not fully realize. Many of the things you cried over were based on incomplete information. You did not know everything. You could not know everything. You only saw what was visible. You only saw what people allowed you to see. You only saw what circumstances revealed. But I saw the entire picture. I saw what happened behind closed doors. I saw conversations you never heard. I saw intentions people never confessed. I saw motives hidden beneath appearances. I saw future events before they unfolded. And because I saw those things, I knew what would happen if I gave you what you wanted. My child, there was a reason some doors remained closed. There was a reason some people left. There was a reason some plans collapsed. There was a reason certain opportunities disappeared. Because had they remained, the pain would have been far greater later. The disappointment you experienced then was temporary. The devastation that might have followed could have lasted years. You called it heartbreak, I called it rescue. You called it loss, I called it preservation. You called it silence, I called it protection. My beloved child, one of the greatest acts of love is not always giving. Sometimes it is withholding, not because love wants to deny, but because love sees beyond the present moment. Think about the times you begged me to move faster, the times you asked me to open a door, the times you demanded an answer, the times you questioned my timing. If I had answered every request immediately, where would you be today? Would you truly be stronger? Would you truly be wiser? Would you truly be walking in peace? Or would you be carrying burdens that were never meant for you? My child, there are people right now living with the consequences of answered prayers that arrived too soon. They prayed for wealth before developing wisdom. They prayed for relationships before finding healing. They prayed for influence before building character. And now they are carrying responsibilities they were never prepared to manage. But because I love you, I chose a different path for you. I chose preparation. I chose protection. I chose timing. I chose growth. Because I care more about your future than your temporary comfort. Remember what my word says. No good thing does he withhold from those whose walk is blameless. Psalm 84:11. Notice carefully what I did not say. I did not say I give every good thing immediately. I did not say I release every blessing instantly. I said I withhold no good thing, because timing is part of goodness. Preparation is part of goodness. Protection is part of goodness. A blessing released at the wrong time can stop being a blessing. That is why timing matters. My beloved, there are things you will understand later that you cannot fully understand now. There are answers waiting in your future. There are revelations waiting in your future. There are moments coming when everything suddenly makes sense. You will look back. You will remember what happened. You will remember the tears. You will remember the disappointment. And suddenly you will see what I was protecting you from. You will see the danger you never noticed. You will see the trap you never recognized. You will see the burden you never carried, and gratitude will replace grief, because what once felt like rejection will reveal itself as mercy. My child, I know it is difficult to trust when understanding has not yet arrived. I know it is difficult to believe when answers are incomplete. I know it is difficult to surrender what you once desired so deeply, but trust me, one day you will thank me for some of the things I refused to give you. One day you will thank me for some of the doors I refused to open. One day you will thank me for some of the delays you hated, because one day you will finally see what I saw. And when that day comes, peace will replace confusion. My beloved child, there is another truth hidden inside all of this. Something even deeper, because I was not only protecting you from the wrong things, I was protecting the future version of you, the person you are becoming, the person I created you to be, the leader, the healer, the builder, the encourager, the overcomer, the person whose testimony will inspire others. And in the next part, I will reveal why my protection was never only about your present life. It was about the future version of you that had not yet emerged. Because, my child, I was never protecting who you were. I was protecting who you were becoming. My beloved child, there is something extraordinary that I need you to understand. Something that may completely transform the way you see your past. For most of your life, you believed I was protecting who you are today. You assumed my guidance was only about your present circumstances, your current needs, your current struggles, your current prayers. But my child, my protection reaches much further than the present moment. I was not only protecting the person you are, I was protecting the person you are becoming. Let that truth settle deeply into your spirit, because the version of you sitting here today is not the final version I see. The version of you struggling through uncertainty is not the finished work. The version of you questioning your future is not the completed design. I see someone beyond the current chapter. I see someone beyond the current battle. I see someone beyond the current pain. I see the person you will become after the process is complete. And that future version of you is worth protecting. My beloved, think about a sculptor standing before a block of stone. Others see only rock. The sculptor sees the masterpiece hidden inside. Others see what exists today. The sculptor sees what will exist tomorrow. That is how I see you. The world may see your weaknesses. I see your strength. The world may see your mistakes. I see your growth. The world may see your limitations. I see your potential. The world may see your struggle. I see your purpose. And because I see who you are becoming, I make decisions based on that future reality, not merely your current desires. This is why some doors had to close. This is why certain delays were necessary. This is why certain people had to leave, because they were incompatible with the future version of you. My child, there were environments that could accommodate the old version of you, but they could never sustain the person you are becoming. There were relationships comfortable with your insecurity, but uncomfortable with your confidence. There were people who understood your wounds, but could not understand your healing. There were circles that accepted your survival, but would resist your growth. And because I knew where I was taking you, I could not allow everything from your past to travel into your future. Listen carefully. This next part matters deeply. You often judge yourself based on your current condition. You focus on what you have not achieved, what you have not overcome, what you have not figured out. But I do not define you by your current limitations. I define you by the destiny I placed within you. I define you by the purpose attached to your life. I define you by what I created you to become. That is why I never gave up on you, even during seasons when you wanted to give up on yourself, even during seasons when you doubted your own worth, even during seasons when you questioned whether your future still existed, because I could already see the person waiting on the other side of the process. My beloved child, there is a future version of you that already exists in my vision. A version of you that is stronger, wiser, healthier, more peaceful, more confident, more disciplined, more surrendered, more aligned with your purpose. And every delay was helping create that person. Every challenge was helping shape that person. Every lesson was helping prepare that person. You thought you were losing time, but I was building capacity. You thought you were being held back, but I was expanding your foundation. You thought life was moving slower than it should, but I was making sure your future could sustain the blessing I prepared. Because the truth is this, your future requires a different version of you. The blessing requires a different version of you. The assignment requires a different version of you. The influence requires a different version of you. And that transformation cannot be rushed. My child, imagine trying to place a mighty oak tree inside a tiny flower pot. The tree would eventually outgrow its container. The container would become restrictive, limiting, damaging. In the same way, some aspects of your old life became too small for who you are becoming. That is why discomfort entered certain areas. That is why some seasons felt awkward. That is why some relationships felt strained. That is why some environments no longer felt right. You were growing beyond them. You were becoming someone new. And growth often feels uncomfortable before it feels rewarding. Remember what my word says, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him. My beloved child, listen carefully because you are standing closer to understanding than you realize. For so long you believed the blessing was somewhere far away. You believed it was delayed in heaven. You believed it was waiting for the perfect circumstances. You believed it was being held back by forces beyond your control. But today I want to reveal something surprising. The blessing did not need to grow. The blessing was already prepared. The opportunity was already prepared. The answer was already prepared. The provision was already prepared. The future was already prepared. The thing that needed to grow was you. My child, think about that for a moment. All those years you spent asking me to accelerate the blessing. I was using that same time to strengthen the person who would eventually receive it. Because blessings carry weight. Responsibility carries weight. Influence carries weight. Leadership carries weight. Purpose carries weight. And if the weight exceeds the strength of the person carrying it, collapse follows. That is why preparation was necessary. That is why delay was necessary. That is why growth was necessary. Because what I prepared for you is not small. It is larger than you imagine. It is greater than what you currently see. It carries impact beyond your own life. and I refused to place that weight upon you before you were ready. My beloved, there was a time when criticism could easily discourage you. A single negative comment could affect your entire day. A single rejection could make you question your worth. A single disappointment could shake your confidence. But look at you now. You have survived storms that once would have overwhelmed you. You have endured seasons that once would have broken you. You have developed resilience that did not exist before. You have become stronger, not because life became easier, but because I strengthened you through it. There was a time when uncertainty created panic. You needed every answer immediately. You needed every detail explained. You needed constant reassurance. But now something has changed. You have learned how to trust even when understanding is incomplete. You have learned how to keep moving forward even when the path is not fully visible. You have learned how to remain steady during seasons of uncertainty. That growth matters more than you realize, because where I am taking you, certainty will not always come before obedience. Sometimes faith must move before clarity arrives. And now you are far more prepared for that reality than you once were. My child, there was a time when you looked to people for validation. You depended on approval. You depended on acceptance. You depended on recognition. When people celebrated you, you felt strong. When people criticized you, you felt weak. But over time, I began teaching you something deeper. Your identity is not determined by public opinion. Your value is not determined by human approval. Your worth is not determined by who accepts or rejects you. Your identity comes from me, and because of that lesson, you now carry a strength that cannot easily be taken away. You have become less dependent on applause, less dependent on validation, less dependent on recognition, and far more anchored in truth. That growth matters, because influence without identity becomes dangerous. Success without identity becomes exhausting. Leadership without identity becomes unstable. But you are no longer who you used to be. Something has changed inside you. Listen carefully now. This next part matters deeply. Many people believe maturity happens automatically with age. But that is not true. Maturity happens through process, through lessons, through failures, through waiting, through growth, and through surrender. My child, some of the greatest victories in your life happened where nobody could see them. The day you chose peace instead of bitterness. The day you chose faith instead of fear. The day you chose forgiveness instead of resentment. The day you chose perseverance instead of quitting. Those moments mattered. Those moments shaped you. Those moments strengthened you. Those moments prepared you. Because true transformation happens internally before it becomes visible externally. The world celebrates external success. I celebrate internal growth, because internal growth sustains external success. My beloved child, imagine trying to build a bridge. If the bridge is designed to carry only light vehicles, it will collapse under heavier loads. Before the bridge can carry greater weight, it must be reinforced, strengthened, expanded, tested. The same thing has happened in your life. I have been reinforcing your character, strengthening your faith, expanding your capacity, testing your foundation, not because I doubted you, because I believed in what you could become. Remember what my word says. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Luke 16:10. Notice the principle. Trustworthiness comes before increase. Faithfulness comes before expansion. Character comes before promotion. The process comes before the platform. And throughout these years, I have been teaching you faithfulness, teaching you consistency, teaching you stewardship, teaching you wisdom. Because what is coming requires those qualities. My child, there are blessings that would have distracted the old version of you, but they will not distract the version of you that exists today. There are opportunities that would have overwhelmed the old version of you, but they will not overwhelm the version of you becoming now. There are responsibilities that once would have crushed you. but they will not crush the person I have been shaping. Why? Because you are different now. You see differently. You think differently. You respond differently. You trust differently. You have been transformed by the journey. And that transformation is one of the reasons your season is changing. Not because the blessing suddenly appeared, but because your capacity has increased. The weight is finally matching the strength. The assignment is finally matching the preparation. The opportunity is finally matching the character. My beloved, there are signs of this transition already appearing. Small signs, quiet signs, subtle signs, things you may not fully recognize yet. New perspectives, new confidence, new opportunities, new clarity, new peace. These are indicators that the season is shifting. Not all at once, but steadily, purposefully, deliberately, because I never rush what I build carefully. And there is something else you need to understand. The changes happening inside you are only the beginning. The external evidence is coming. The visible confirmation is coming. The manifestation is coming. And in the next part, I will reveal how to recognize the signs that your waiting season is ending. Because, my child, long before a harvest appears, there are signals that the season has changed. And those signals are already beginning to appear around you. My beloved child, listen carefully, because this is where many people make a mistake. They pray for change. They ask for breakthrough. They wait for answers. They expect movement. Yet when the answer finally begins to arrive, they fail to recognize it. Why? Because they are looking for something dramatic, something immediate, something impossible to miss. They expect lightning. They expect earthquakes. They expect heaven to suddenly open before their eyes. But that is not always how I work. Many times before I release the full harvest, I send signs, small signs, quiet signs, gentle confirmations, not because I am uncertain, but because I am preparing your heart to recognize what is coming. My child, think about the sunrise. The sun does not instantly appear at its highest point. First comes the faint light on the horizon. Then the darkness begins to retreat. Then the colors begin to change. Then the warmth begins to spread. Only afterward does the full light arrive. The same pattern often happens in your life. Before the breakthrough becomes visible, signs begin to appear. Before the door fully opens, confirmations begin to arrive. Before the harvest appears, evidence begins to emerge. And many of those signs are already surrounding you. You simply have not recognized them yet. Listen closely now. This next part matters deeply. One of the first signs that a season is changing is a shift inside your spirit. Not outside, inside. You begin thinking differently. You begin seeing differently. You begin responding differently. Things that once controlled you lose their power. Things that once terrified you no longer dominate your thoughts. Old fears begin to loosen their grip. Old wounds begin to heal. Old burdens begin to feel lighter. You may not even notice it happening, yet it is happening. Because before I change circumstances, I often change people. Before I transform environments, I transform hearts. And before I release blessings, I prepare the vessel receiving them. My beloved child, have you noticed that certain things no longer affect you the way they once did? The criticism, the rejection, the delays, the disappointments, the things that once stole your peace, they still exist, but something has changed. You have changed. That is a sign, a significant sign, because growth is often the first evidence that a new season is approaching. Another sign is clarity. For a long time, confusion may have surrounded you. You questioned everything. You doubted yourself. You wondered which direction to take. You felt uncertain about your future. But now, even if every answer has not arrived, certain things are becoming clearer. You are beginning to recognize what belongs in your life and what does not. You are beginning to recognize who strengthens your faith and who weakens it. You are beginning to recognize which opportunities align with your purpose and which ones distract from it. That clarity is not accidental, it is preparation. because I do not guide confused people into major assignments without first increasing their discernment. My child, another sign appears through unexpected peace. This surprises many people because they expect breakthrough to feel exciting. But often, before breakthrough arrives, peace arrives first. A strange calm, a deep assurance, a quiet confidence. Not because every problem has disappeared, but because your spirit knows something is changing. You may not have words for it. You may not be able to explain it. Yet deep inside, something feels different. That peace is a gift, a signal, a whisper from heaven saying, stay faithful. Keep moving forward. The season is shifting. My beloved, there is another sign that many people overlook. Closed doors begin to bother you less. Think about that. There was a time when certain losses consumed your thoughts. Certain disappointments controlled your emotions. Certain rejections dominated your attention. But lately, something has changed. You are no longer obsessed with what did not happen. You are no longer trapped by yesterday. You are no longer living inside old disappointments. You are looking forward. That matters, because a person cannot embrace the future while constantly staring at the past. And when your focus begins shifting forward, it often means you are approaching a new season. Listen carefully. This next revelation is important. Many people ask for signs while ignoring the ones already present. They want dramatic evidence. Meanwhile, I am speaking through ordinary moments. A conversation that arrives at the perfect time. An unexpected opportunity. A renewed sense of hope. A sudden understanding. A scripture that speaks directly into your situation. A door opening where none existed before. A burden lifting. A fear disappearing. A new confidence emerging. These things may seem small, but they are not small. They are indicators, signals, confirmations, evidence that movement is already happening. Remember what my word says. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. Notice the question. Do you not perceive it? Not will I do it? Not might I do it? I am already doing it. The challenge is perception. The challenge is recognizing what has already begun. My child, many blessings begin long before they become visible. Seeds begin growing before anyone sees a harvest. Foundations are built before anyone sees a building. Pregnancy begins before anyone sees the child. And the same is true for your breakthrough. The process often starts before the evidence appears. That is why faith matters. Because faith allows you to trust what is happening beneath the surface, even when visible proof has not fully arrived. My beloved child, I need you to hear this. The fact that you are still here is a sign. The fact that your faith survived is a sign. The fact that your hope remains alive is a sign. The fact that you continue seeking me is a sign. You have endured things that should have destroyed your confidence. You have survived seasons that should have broken your spirit. Yet here you are, still standing, still believing, still moving forward. That is not weakness. That is evidence of my hand upon your life. And there is one final sign I want you to recognize. Expectation, the growing sense that something is near, the quiet feeling that change is approaching, the awareness that the current chapter cannot continue forever. You may not fully understand it, yet you can feel it. Something is different. Something is shifting. Something is moving, and you are right. Because the waiting season is not designed to last forever. Preparation eventually becomes manifestation. Training eventually becomes promotion. Seeds eventually become harvest, and delays eventually reveal their purpose. But there is something even more powerful about to happen. Something that will cause you to look back at every delay, every disappointment, every unanswered prayer, and finally understand why it all happened. Because in the next part, I will reveal the moment of revelation. The moment when frustration becomes gratitude. The moment when confusion becomes understanding. The moment when you finally realize that if I had answered your prayer earlier, everything might have fallen apart. Because, my child, The same delay that once frustrated you will soon amaze you. My beloved child, there is a day coming that you cannot fully imagine yet. A day that will change how you view your entire journey. A day when the confusion finally disappears. A day when the questions that have followed you for years suddenly receive answers. A day when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin saying, "Now I understand." My child, that day is closer than you think. Because one of the greatest gifts I give my children is not merely blessing, it is understanding. Understanding transforms pain. Understanding transforms disappointment. Understanding transforms waiting. Understanding transforms grief into gratitude. And there are things you have been carrying that will look completely different once understanding arrives. Listen carefully, because this truth may heal something deep inside you. There were seasons when you believed I was withholding something good from you. You watched others move ahead. You watched others celebrate. You watched others receive opportunities you desired. And quietly, you wondered why your story seemed slower, why your progress seemed delayed, why your prayers seemed unanswered. You compared your timeline to theirs. You compared your journey to theirs. And comparison made the waiting feel even heavier. But my beloved, comparison is dangerous because it only shows you the surface. You never see the whole story. You never see the hidden struggles. You never see the private battles. You never see the future consequences attached to another person's path. You only see appearances. I see outcomes. And because I see outcomes, I sometimes delay what appears good in order to deliver what is best. My child, imagine reading only one page from a book. If the page contains pain, you might assume the story ends in tragedy. If the page contains loss, you might assume hope is gone. If the page contains confusion, you might assume there is no purpose. But the author knows something the reader on that single page does not. The story is not finished. The meaning has not fully unfolded. The ending has not yet arrived. You have often judged your life from a single page. I have always seen the entire book. And because I see the ending, I never panic when you are in a difficult chapter. I know what comes next. I know how the story unfolds. I know how every piece eventually fits together. My beloved child, there are prayers you once cried over that no longer matter. Think about that. There were things you desperately wanted years ago. Things you believed you could not live without. Things you believed would define your happiness. Yet today, many of those things no longer hold the same power over you. Why? Because time revealed what emotions could not. Time exposed what was temporary. Time revealed what was truly important. And time will continue revealing truths you cannot yet see. One day you will look back at a relationship that ended, and instead of asking why it happened, you will thank me that it did. One day you will look back at an opportunity that disappeared, and instead of mourning the loss, you will celebrate the protection. One day you will look back at a closed door, and instead of seeing rejection, you will see rescue. Because hindsight often reveals what faith had to trust. Listen carefully now. This next part matters deeply. Many of the delays in your life were not preventing blessing. They were preventing damage. There is a difference. You thought I was keeping something from you. In reality, I was keeping something from reaching you. Something harmful, something distracting, something destructive. You saw delay, I saw danger. You saw waiting, I saw wisdom. You saw disappointment, I saw preservation. My child, there are futures you never experienced because I intervened. There are mistakes you never made because I redirected you. There are burdens you never carried because I protected you. There are heartbreaks you never endured because I closed the door before you entered. You do not know the full extent of my protection. Not yet, but one day you will. And when you do, gratitude will flood places where frustration once lived. Remember what my word says. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Ecclesiastes 3:11. Notice those final words. In its time. Not in your preferred time, not in the world's time, not in the time pressure created by fear, in its time, because timing is part of beauty. Timing is part of wisdom. Timing is part of protection. A beautiful thing released too early can become harmful. A beautiful thing released at the right time becomes life-giving. My beloved child, there is another revelation coming, a realization that will bring tremendous peace. You will discover that what felt like divine silence was actually divine activity. While you were waiting, I was arranging things, aligning things, positioning things, preparing things. You thought nothing was happening because you could not see movement. But not all movement is visible. Roots grow in hidden places. Seeds develop beneath the soil. Foundations are built underground. And many of the most important things in your life were developing where your eyes could not see them. My child, one of the greatest deceptions of fear is convincing you that delay means abandonment. Fear whispers, God forgot you, God ignored you, God moved on. But none of those things were ever true. I never forgot you. I never abandoned you. I never stopped working on your behalf, not for a single moment. Even during your darkest seasons, I remained present. Even during your longest waiting periods, I remained active. Even during your greatest confusion, I remained faithful. That is why I need you to stop measuring my presence by visible evidence alone. My presence has always been there. My hand has always been there. My guidance has always been there, even when you could not recognize it. My beloved child, there is one final shift I want to create inside your heart before we move forward. Stop asking, why was I delayed? Start asking, what was God protecting? Because that question changes everything. The first question focuses on frustration. The second question focuses on trust. The first question looks backward. The second question looks upward. The first question creates confusion. The second question creates peace. And peace is what I desire for you. Because peace allows you to move forward without carrying the weight of old disappointments. Now listen carefully, because the greatest revelation is still ahead. The final truth that ties everything together. The truth that explains the delays, the closed doors, the waiting seasons, the unanswered prayers, the painful separations, the preparation process, everything. And in the next part, I will reveal the ultimate reason your future was never rushed. Because, my child, your future was too important to risk on the wrong timing. My beloved child, we have come to the final truth. The truth hidden behind every delay, every closed door, every season of waiting, every unanswered prayer, every painful separation, every moment when you wondered if I had forgotten you. And this truth is simpler than you think, yet deeper than you realize. The delay was never the story. The protection was. For so long, you focused on what did not happen, the opportunity that disappeared, the relationship that ended, the promotion that never came, the prayer that seemed unanswered, the timeline that moved slower than expected. You believed those were the central events of your story, but they were not. They were only the surface. Beneath all of those moments was something much greater taking place. I was protecting your future because your future was too important to rush. My child, imagine a master architect designing a magnificent structure. The blueprint is complete, the vision is clear, the final result is beautiful. But imagine if the architect rushed the foundation. Imagine if corners were cut. Imagine if critical steps were skipped. The building might rise faster, but eventually it would collapse. Not because the vision was wrong, because the timing was wrong. That is what many people fail to understand. The problem is rarely the promise. The problem is rarely the blessing. The problem is rarely the future. The problem is timing. And because I knew what I was building in your life, I refused to rush the process. You wanted speed. I wanted stability. You wanted arrival. I wanted endurance. You wanted the blessing. I wanted the blessing to last. My beloved, there are things attached to your future that you still cannot fully see. People you have not met, lives you will influence, doors you will walk through, prayers you will help answer for others, pain you will help heal, hope you will help restore. The future I prepared for you extends beyond yourself. That is why I took it so seriously. That is why I protected it so carefully. That is why I refused to release certain things prematurely. Because what I am building through you carries significance beyond this current moment. Listen carefully now. This next revelation matters deeply. You have often viewed delays as evidence that you were forgotten. But what if the opposite was true? What if the reason I delayed certain things was because I remembered your future? What if I protected opportunities because I knew what they would become later? What if I protected relationships because I knew what they would eventually cost? What if I protected your purpose because I knew how much was attached to it? My child, forgotten people are ignored. You were never ignored. Forgotten people are abandoned. You were never abandoned. Forgotten people are left without guidance. You were guided every step of the way. The delays were not evidence of absence. They were evidence of involvement. I was involved in your story. In every detail, in every setback, in every disappointment, in every redirection, in every season of preparation, I was there, working, positioning, protecting, preparing, because your future mattered too much to leave to chance. My beloved child, one day you will stand in a place you once prayed for, and when you do, something extraordinary will happen. You will remember the waiting. You will remember the tears. You will remember the confusion. You will remember the delays, and suddenly, you will realize something. If I had answered your prayer 1 year earlier, you would not have been ready. If I had opened the door 2 years earlier, you would not have recognized its value. If I had released the blessing 5 years earlier, it might have crushed you. Everything arrived when it could finally build you, instead of break you. And in that moment, gratitude will replace every question, because understanding will reveal what faith had to trust. My child, this is why I tell you not to judge your story too early. A chapter is not the whole book. A delay is not the final outcome. A closed door is not the final verdict. A season is not a destiny. What feels permanent today may only be preparation for tomorrow. What feels painful today may become the testimony that inspires someone else later. What feels confusing today may become perfectly clear in the future. That is why I ask you to trust me, not because you understand everything, but because I do. Remember what my word says. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord. Psalm 27:14. Notice that I did not say waiting would always be easy. I said be strong, take heart, because waiting requires courage. Waiting requires faith. Waiting requires trust. And through all of those things, you have grown far more than you realize. My beloved child, look at who you are now. You are not the same person who began this journey. You have survived battles you once thought would destroy you. You have endured seasons you once thought would never end. You have overcome disappointments that once felt unbearable. You have gained wisdom through experience, strength through adversity, faith through uncertainty. And because of that growth, you are now capable of carrying what once would have overwhelmed you. The blessing did not become safer, you became stronger. The opportunity did not become smaller, you became larger. The assignment did not become easier, you became more prepared. That is why the timing mattered. That is why the delay mattered. That is why the process mattered. Everything was working together. Every lesson, every challenge, every setback, every redirection, every closed door, every waiting season. None of it was wasted, not one moment, because I am a God who redeems every part of the journey, even the painful parts, even the confusing parts, even the delayed parts. And now, my beloved child, I want you to release something. Release the resentment. Release the frustration. Release the disappointment. Release the need to understand every detail. Release the belief that you are behind. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. The same God who guided you through every delay is guiding you into every blessing. The same God who protected you through every closed door is opening the right doors. The same God who prepared you through every waiting season is leading you into a new season. And when you finally arrive at what I prepared for you, you will understand this truth. The blessing was never late. The timing was perfect because your future was too important to rush. And everything I delayed because I loved you. Everything I protected because I saw what you could not see. Everything I prepared because I knew who you would become. And my child, what is coming next will not destroy you, because now you are finally ready. If this message spoke to your heart, comment, "God's timing saved me." Like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who feels discouraged by delay. And remember, what looked like delay was divine protection. What looked like waiting was divine preparation. What looked like rejection was divine redirection. And what looked like silence was God protecting a future too important to rush.